Okay, so it is the end of 2024. I'm holding my handy dandy notebook, and that means I have a list of both my favorite and least favorite books of 2024. But today, as I'm sure you know by the title of this video, we will be talking about my least favorite, seriously most disappointing books of 2024. I'd like to start this video off by saying obviously, it's not my intention to offend anybody. I'm just here sitting talking about books that I found to be really disappointing, I thought were genuinely not good. I had serious issues with, because I think that's the point of BookTube. We're talking about our opinions of books. I love watching other people's opinions of books they dislike. It helps inform what I want to read and buy and what I could be interested in. And sometimes hearing people's negative reviews of a book makes me want to pick the book up. Makes me think, oh, I would love it for the reasons that they disliked it, if that makes sense. I'd say most of the time it warns me away from books, but anywho. Yeah, but nothing's perfect, and these books are definitely not perfect for me. So without further ado, here we go. In no particular order, my least favorite / most disappointing, seriously, books of 2024 are, oh my god, how many books do I have on this list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have seven, and I read 100 books this year. Give or take. Again, in no particular order, the first book we have is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. We have another book by Ashley Poston on this list as well, which will be coming up next. I'll talk about it next, I guess, because that makes sense. The 7-Year Slip. People love this book. I didn't think it was good. I didn't think that it was good. Full respect. Very happy for the people that loved it. Obviously, I don't want anyone to read a bad book or dislike what they read, but this was so cheesy. It was cheesy and corny, and it had it leaned into the corn to the point where it was just so surface level cheesy, in my opinion. And I just didn't like it. It was a 7-hour audiobook, so I listened to it. And I was like, I'm not going to DNF it. I listened to it in a day because I wasn't doing anything that day. I was cleaning the house and going to the gym. Listened to it on 2 times speed or 1.5, whatever. Oh my god, I did not like it. So basically, I think we're following this main character, I think in New York. And it's like a time slip type romance. And her aunt recently passed away. Was it her grandma or her aunt? I think her aunt recently passed away, and she was BFFs with her aunt. She goes to this apartment that her aunt owned. Now she owns it. She goes into this apartment, but it's 7 years in the past, and this guy is staying there, and he's wants to be a chef, but present day she works in publishing, and this guy who's a chef she meets, and he's a jerk to her, and she's like, why is he a jerk? And then she goes into this apartment and realizes, oh my gosh, I knew this guy 7 years ago. Well, to him it was 7 years ago, but to me it's all happened at the same time. And they fall in love, you know? They have their own situation, they fall in love, it's a romance. It is what it is. It was just so cheesy. I did not feel the chemistry between the characters. I didn't feel the connection at all. I don't get why it's so popular, I don't. But that's The 7-Year Slip. After that, again, same author. So she's just not for me. That's fine. But she's doing well for herself. A lot of people love her. Good for her. A novel love story, which came out this year, I think in June or something. Can you believe it? I thought this was even worse than The 7-Year Slip. I really did. Oh boy, I didn't like this book. It was just bad. And I was listening to it. I'm this is not good. This is not good, but it's easy to listen to an audiobook. You just put it on and you're whoa, this is I can't even explain it. Maybe I'm doing just fine explaining it, but I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just this is the most ridiculous, cheesiest thing ever, and the characters feel so bland and fake and dramatic and completely one-sided, and I don't feel the chemistry between these characters. At all. I feel I have 2 flat Stanleys. I'm putting them together and I'm make them kiss, you know? I just don't think it was good. Our main character, she's driving along. she's got her own trauma in her life, failed past relationship, and she's driving to go to like a reading retreat, and she ends up in this like town. Her car breaks down in this town that's actually like a fake town from this book series, this romance book series that she loves, and all these characters come to life, and she's like interacting with all these characters, and she meets a guy and stuff happens. Cheesy bad, didn't like it, and unrealistic, like I didn't think that was good. Okay, next. This is one of like seriously the worst books I've probably ever read. Like not even just I didn't like it, like I really thought this was not good. The Honey Witch. Hey guys, so it's much later in the same day. I have, as you've probably noticed, changed my shirt. Something happened with the camera, someone came home, so now we're here. It's been a few hours and we're going to continue with the video because the show must go on, you know, the show must go on. I think I was talking about The Honey Witch, so by Sydney J. Shields, which I forgot what I was saying before. I don't think I said much yet, but holy cow, this was unfortunately the worst book I've read in a really long time. And again, I feel bad saying that, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth with this author. I think it was her debut. So I would be curious to see how her career and her style progresses. This was about a girl who... There were just so many problems with this book. So many problems with this book. Essentially, it's about this young girl who's trying to find her own way in life. Instead of getting married, she wants to have an adventure in her life and be independent. And her grandmother is a witch. She's a honey witch on this island. When she comes of age or is a certain age, her grandma comes and takes her with her to become the next honey witch because she's dying, and someone needs to take over the role, so our main character does that. To be fair, I did DNF this book pretty much at the exactly halfway mark. I just could not abide how terrible it was written. Like, it was just like written so bad on a sentence level. The dialogue was bad, the descriptions were terrible. It read like a practice, like an exercise that you would submit as like your first try. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I could do any better. I'm really not saying I could do any better. That is not what I need to say, but this is my opinion as a reader. You know, I think that the author had great whimsical, magical ideas, and there was a lot of potential there. It just didn't follow through. It was weird. I didn't like it, and I was so bummed because I pre-ordered that book. I was really excited for like a nice cozy fantasy, and it just, I feel like, could not decide what it wanted to be. And anyway, so that was probably like, was that like the biggest disappointment of the year? I don't know, but it was definitely the worst book that I read this year. Like, absolutely the worst. I'd say the next worst or next biggest disappointment was My Husband by Maud Ventura. I was so geared up to love this book. Truly thought I was gonna love it. The premise sounded so interesting. It's about this woman. It's translated from the French. It's about this woman who's obsessed with her husband. They've been married for I don't know how long. They have like 2 kids, 2 10-year-old-ish kids. And she's literally obsessed with her husband. Like, everything that she does in her life is all about like getting her husband's attention, and she nitpicks every little thing that he does and says and every way that he looks at her. That's like her whole life, her husband, obsession. And then she's also like, I hate him. I will get back at him for this because he doesn't love me enough, because clearly he tied his shoelace wrong. So like, I know that that was some subterfuge. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to get me. That was the woman's whole thing. I thought that there could be so much psychological exploration there. There could be so much philosophically and psychologically, maybe not philosophically, but also too, psychologically to delve in there and to think about and to show and display and what have you. And it could have been so good, and I thought it was going to be so good because everybody loves this book. Like, everybody that I'd seen online really liked My Husband by Maud Ventura. And I loved the cover, and I just thought it was so not well, like it did not reach its potential. I feel like it was like a shallow story, and I thought that it would have so much depth because there's so much potential with that premise for so much depth, and I was bummed, man. I was bummed off my ass that one did not work. It really didn't work. So yeah, those two books, not for me. Next on the list, we have two thrillers, actually. The next two books are thrillers, and oh my god, I just saw another one that I forgot I put on this list. It's another biggest disappointment of the year, to equal My Husband and the Honey Witch, but for its own very specific reasons. Okay, but the thrillers. Let's talk about the thrillers. You know, I got into reading thrillers this year. It's the first year that I've done it. Will I continue it into the next year? I don't know. They don't stick with me. Maybe it would be like a palate cleanser every now and then if it sounded interesting, but like they just don't stick with me. I don't really get anything out of them. They're mainly forgettable. I forget the stories so much, like quickly after reading them. But two that I listened to this year, because I pretty much listened to all of them, was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell and The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. So let's talk about those, because I was disappointed. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, again, was a huge favorite this year on so many bestseller lists. The thing with None of This Is True is that I can totally see why people would like it. I do think that it is the one book on this list that was probably like, okay, it was well done for what it was trying to do. I don't think that it was marketed to me well, and I had expectations, right? I had certain expectations, and I was severely disappointed. So this book was on like biggest plot twist of the year, biggest plot twist in a book I've ever read, and that's kind of what I was going into it hoping for. Essentially, it's about this woman. It's about two women who are birthday twins. One of them is a pretty well-to-do reporter, podcaster, who's married with children, and the other one is a housewife who is significantly younger than her husband. I think she's like 30 years younger than her husband, and they started dating when she was like 16 or 15 or something like that, and he was obviously significantly older than her, and he left his wife for her, and he had been dating her mother or something before they started. Weird, right? And they have kids together, but then there's like lots of weird stuff going on with the kids that they have together. And these two women meet each other and stuff happens. Or well, the housewife approaches the podcaster, and she wants the podcaster to like do a podcast all about her life and how she was groomed by this older man who then became her husband, and how she's been abused her whole life. And yes, heavy topics for sure. Sorry, I need to turn that back on. Heavy topics for sure. I don't think there was no plot twist in this book. I mean, you could tell immediately when you started reading this book that girl, the housewife, I forget her name, is crazy. Like, no, she's like literally insane. That was the shtick of the book, is that like she's insane actually. And I'm like, what do you mean actually? I could tell from page 1. She had me at hello, really, with the psychotic, like with the craziness. She really was insane. So I don't get why people think that was shocking or surprising or a plot twist, because it wasn't. And I'm trying to think of like, while I was listening to it, and I'm like, what is the plot twist in this book? Like, I knew she was the crazy one the whole time. I thought that something else, I was expecting like something huge to happen at the end. It was like, no, she's not crazy, would be the plot twist. That would be insane based off the direction that the book was going. So that was disappointing on one hand. On the other hand, it was disappointing because she was a teenager who was in a relationship with an older man, and that's extremely inappropriate, like, and illegal, you know what I mean? Well, in the UK, well, I don't know what the age of consent is for the UK. In England, that over the pond, but like in the United States, it's 18, so I still think it's super inappropriate if you're like 16, even if that's the age of consent, bro. I don't know. Really gotta reassess that law in your country, because I think that's bizarro. It wasn't appropriate, like, and that wasn't talked about enough, like what kind of psychology the man would have, and like how she could end up in that situation. I just don't feel like that was talked about enough, and I think that it needed more discussion because it's kind of a big deal. But really it was that this woman was psychotic, and then kind of about her children and what have you. So yeah, I think that it would do well to be marketed as a book about an unreliable narrator, because she was extremely unreliable, like extremely unreliable. I mean, you knew she was crazy, but like super unreliable. And even at the end, you were kind of like, what the heck is she saying? Like, she's just so crazy. Like, you cannot believe a single word that this woman says or anything that she does. So I don't think that that was a bad book. I just think that it wasn't marketed to me correctly, and therefore I was disappointed. I don't think that it was like anything amazing aside from that, but like I could see why people would like that one. The next one that I had mentioned was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I had read a book by Alex Michaelides years ago called The Maidens, and I hated it. I thought it was like one of the worst books I've ever read as well. I thought it was terrible. I don't like dark academia, which this is also dark academia. So why did I pick it up? I don't know, because it's on a bunch of bestseller lists. People online seem to love The Silent Patient. It's a TikTok famous book, and it got me, you know. But generally speaking, I'm really not into dark academia. I find it to be really pretentious and super annoying, and it's not my thing. Like, it's just not my thing. And I think that that's generally what Alex Michaelides writes, so I know they're just not for me as an author. And that's great, and I love that other people do like their books. Because again, I guess I could see why other people could be into it, so there you go. But again, just didn't do it for me. The Silent Patient is about this guy. I like remember very specific things about this book when I was listening to it, but I'm trying to like, how do I pitch it? It's about this guy who's a psychotherapist, and he was in psychotherapy for a long time, but now he's working at this home for people who need very serious all around the clock care. And he's there because this woman is there who's like this famous case, who everybody thinks she murdered her husband. She's like this famous artist, and she hasn't spoken in a decade, years, since her husband was murdered, and everyone's like she hasn't said anything. So this psychotherapist, our main character, is working at this establishment because he's very interested in this woman, and that's basically the premise of The Silent Patient. He tries to get to know this woman. I kind of felt like it was really predictable. I felt like while I was listening to it, it was obvious to me. I'm like, isn't it? I just felt like it was obvious to me, and I don't want to spoil this one because I feel like it could be a spoiled thing. I don't think none of this is true. I don't think there are spoilers in that book. I mean, maybe a little bit at the end, but I didn't spoil none of this is true. The Silent Patient, I feel like I could spoil it if I tell you like why I thought it was so predictable. But like, I really thought it was super predictable. I thought it was kind of pretentious and a little bit annoying, and without having like anything to back it, you know what I'm saying? So very disappointed in The Silent Patient. And also it bugs me because it's just like, how did that get so huge? You know, that's also why it adds another layer to the disappointment, of course, when a book is like a blockbuster. And you're like, all right, I guess, but okay. Last but not least on this list, it's in that trio of top 3 most disappointing books of the year. Just like really grinds my gears. This book grinds my gears. And that is The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. I talked about why I hated this book so much in my, I think it was like an August wrap-up or September wrap-up or something. I'll link it down below. But this book really grinds my gears. And when I started reading it, I was like, I turned to my partner and I go, wow, this book is like so well written. It's beautiful. I think it's going to be a really interesting story. And then it just like slowly devolved from there to be something that I found to be extremely unnecessarily pretentious. Like, some of the language used in the book was just not necessary. And I understand authors trying to
develop their prose style and have maybe more of a flowery writing style and use bigger words. It can build the character. It can build up the character. If they're using these words, then it shows that they have like a high intellect and they're very intellectual or whatever. But it really didn't work in that book, in my opinion, at all. It was just there to be pretentious, and it was. Like, it was just really, really, really unnecessary. And even the whole story, like the whole concept of time travel and this woman that works at the Ministry of Time, and she's assigned this project to basically watch after this man that the government brought back from 1847. I think that was the year where he had died in 1847, and right before he was going to die anyway, but right before he died, they brought him to the present because they discovered time travel, and they're trying to see what the effects of time travel are on humanity, life, and the world, and what have you. So she's supposed to be watching this dude and like living with him for a year to see what's up, and there's 5 other time travelers, and it's a lot about being displaced in place and time, and that could have been something super interesting about it. It was supposed to have like a little bit of a romantic element to it. I don't think that it did at all. It did not go together one little bit, one little iota, even a little bit, not even a little bit, not even at all. So that kind of bugged me. The main character was just the most annoying person on the planet. Like, she was just annoying. She was really irritating and super dumb, in my opinion, like naive. She was just like kind of naive and dumb, in my opinion. Wow, that book really bothered me. And so many people online love The Ministry of Time. And I think it was even on like Obama's summer reading list. That's, I think, why I ended up picking it up, which is great. If people loved it, happy to you, but no way Jose for me. No way Jose. It like actually makes me feel like lit up on the inside with fury. I really just dislike that book. What else? Even at the end, it didn't even make sense. It just existed to be pretentious, in my opinion. It just wasn't good. Like, it just bugs. Ooh, that book bugs me. It bugs me. But I hope you liked it, I guess. I hope you liked it. I don't know. There you go. Those are my least favorite / most disappointing books that I read in the year of 2024. Let me know if you've read these books. If you love them, please let me know, and I'm totally open to hearing why you love them, and I think that's so great if you did. Let me know if you read them and you agree with me as well. I would love to hear that. Yeah, what were your most disappointing books of the year? That's exciting. Tell me what your most disappointing books of the year are or were. Again, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Okay,